All right, welcome back. Our GMC Sierra tweet of the night come from the Pitt women's soccer program. They say, leaving a legacy for the first time in program history, they are headed to the NCAA tournament. Boy, they've had a nice season for sure. The Pitt volleyball team has won 17 in a row. They're 24-2. Things are going well there. The basketball team started tonight, and they won over UT Martin, Tennessee Martin, T. Martin, whoever they are. It's not the kind of competition you want to see. It. All of these teams played tonight. West Virginia took on a team they obviously beat, and so did Penn State. And it's the start of basketball season. Are you at all optimistic, Chris, about basketball locally with any of these teams?
Not really. No. Dior Johnson, we know how ugly. I mean, seriously, though, you
I'm
and I
not
love
either.
the NBA.
So do I. And I just, college basketball used to be so good here, and now I can't wait for it to get better.
You know, there's two things you could tell, like maybe a 17-year-old kid right now who's only known Penguins victories and mostly heartache for the Pirates and mostly good times for the Steelers. If you tried to tell somebody, though, that's 17 years old, hey, there was a time right before you were born where Pitt basketball was like the hot ticket in town, and literally nobody cared that the Penguins were playing games because there were maybe 2,000 people in that barn and all of their players stunk. They look at you like you were like, no, come on, man, you can't possibly be serious. It feels it's 17, 18 years ago from the crazy days of Dixon's first run, right, replacing Howland and everything like that, Bob. It feels like it's 50, 100 years ago for Pitt hoops specifically. I know we could talk West Virginia, Penn State, but every time something good seems like it might happen for Jeff Capel, that good thing usually turns sour. Dior Johnson's the latest one.
Right.
I mean, Hughley got suspended for a long time. Now they're counting on him to be a team leader. No, I just don't have faith. There's not enough fertile enough local recruiting ground for Pitt, and they don't seem to be able to well enough navigate the transfer portal to try to supplement.
But they do have Frederico, and he was a big force tonight, along with Blake Hinson as a transfer from Iowa State. So look out for those two. All right, this weird story today from the NFL. Jim Irsay decides that he's going to pull the plug on Frank Reich. And quite frankly, I don't know why. They're in the middle of the season. They're still 3-5, whatever the case. They're in second place in their division. And I still respect what Frank Reich is as a coach, specifically an offensive coach. They've had, I blame more Ballard and their GM team for bringing in, Phil Rivers, and then it was Carson Wentz, and then it's Matt Ryan, and those guys are at the end of the line there. So they make a change, and they bring in Jeff Saturday, which was stunning to me. When I heard the name, I couldn't believe it. What was your take on this? And Frank Reich is a guy who a lot of teams would love to have, and I'm wondering about the Steelers at the end of this season.
So I have a lot of thoughts here, Bob. I'll try to get to all of them in an expeditious fashion. I'm hoping I'm nice and sharp here at home with nothing to distract me. But bottom line is, I think Art Rooney could take a little bit of a page, not much of one, from the Jim Irsay playbook. Not always be so kind of devoted to the guys you've got on staff. Now, Irsay, despite his volatile and well-earned volatile reputation, has never, in his 25 years as principal owner of the team, Bob, he's never fired a coach mid-season. They've gotten rid of coordinators, obviously. Reich just did that to a guy who wasn't even calling the plays on their offense, but he had never fired a head coach mid-season. I think the Steelers should have to be, at least with their coordinators, a little bit more willing to do things drastically like that when the situation dictates. Like, I don't know, it might right now. So I respect that Irsay did that. I don't respect that he hired Jeff Saturday, even if it's on an interim basis, and then has already said, ooh, I hope it's for longer. One of my favorite jokes around town is whenever there's a coaching vacancy, especially when it was for Pitt, Bob, I would always count on at least 2 or 3 people calling my show at like 1 a.m. and passionately advocating for like Bill Chirpak to get the Pitt job, despite the fact that he had never coached above TJ. They'd say, well, he turned TJ into a powerhouse. This is what they are doing. Taking a guy with a 20-16 high school football record, who granted has been around the program as a consultant, he's at the ESPN and all that stuff. They are making him their coach. He doesn't have any college experience. He doesn't have any pro experience as a coach. None. I think that's a wild thing to do, and it would be nice if Jeff Saturday was doing this just to kind of stabilize things and he was just going to be a figurehead and a CEO and step aside. But I think Jim Irsay is kind of hoping that Jeff Saturday shows him something that can, I guess justify hiring him full time, which I think would be a massive mistake. Frank Reich to the Steelers, by the way, to finish up here. as offensive coordinator, that'd be nice. Somebody's going to want him to be their next head coach. I assure you of that.
I feel the same way about Sean Payton, who's sitting out there. He could be that role, but he wouldn't want that role. He wants the big job, and he's going to get the big job. You mentioned something about the Steelers. One thing that Mike Tomlin said last week, and he did not include coaching in this, is that you would see some significant change. And I'm wondering what they can do significantly to change anything at this point of the season. They only have so many players they can actually deal with. Aside from Harris versus Warren, is there anything else significant that you see that they could do?
I don't think that I can see significant changes. Maybe KZ comes on and they do more of like a 3-3-5 look that some teams like to put out there. They get more defensive backs, sizable guys on the field so that they can play against the run, but maybe cover the pass a little better. That's kind of in the weeds here, though. Like, what am I saying? Am I going to start breaking down all 22 film on this show? It's one of the things that I don't think is necessarily going to be a change, but I do agree with people who say it might crystallize some things for them. When you had Chase Claypool here, you had him, you had Deontay Johnson, you had George Pickens, you had Pat Freiermuth, all of whom wanted the ball. I think now with Claypool gone, and I like that trade for them, by the way. I haven't had a chance to sound off. I love that they got a second-round pick for that, even though Green Bay looks like they might have been worse than Chicago, which if Green Bay really wanted him for a second, you might have sacrificed a few spots in the draft, Bob. But I think when you can go Johnson, Pickens, and Freiermuth, and those are your three main pass catchers, I actually think that could help Kenny Pickett a little bit. He's not going to feel like he's got to feed a bunch of different mouths there, and he can maybe start developing chemistry, at least from my part, this is important, with George Pickens, who I think is the most important of those three guys to really get it going with because he has the potential to be the best weapon. So that's a change I think you could see in terms of how their offense functions.
I'd also like to see a little change in using a well-designed screen once in a while because Najee Harris, I think, has the ability to do that. So does Warren. Just instead of just dump-offs because there's nothing else available, I'm talking about a well-thought-out screenplay where you sucker the defense in. All of a sudden, you got four blockers out there and somebody running the football. We haven't seen much of that. The other thing that was interesting is watching last night or yesterday afternoon in the Bills and the Jets and Josh Allen, who, for as athletic as he is, puts himself at risk. Although the play that I'm referring to is one that he hurt his elbow, similar to Ben Roethlisberger. Mm-hmm. He was grabbing his arm, and when I saw that, I said, "What?" Then I saw the play today. That he was going for the pass. Guy knocks the ball out. He follows through. His arm gets bent. That could be serious, Chris. And if it is, well, we talk about 9 weeks left. That's a long time for this season. There are going to be a lot of things that are going to change between now and the end of the season. He's going under tests for this. The ulnar, collateral, whatever it is, that's the same thing that Roethlisberger had. What do you think?
I mean, we hear about it with pitchers in baseball when they have forearm strains. It's like, oh boy, it sounds so, not a big deal. And then everyone that's followed baseball goes, oh, that's usually a precursor to Tommy John. I'd be nervous if I were a Bills fan because if he needs to get surgery on that and they seem optimistic, or he does, that he won't. But if he does, it throws the AFC race wide open. I mean, Kansas City delivered a gut check win on Sunday night, but they didn't look like a juggernaut against a team that was running basically the wing T, or might as well have been. That throws that division wide open. I think it makes Miami that much more dangerous if Josh Allen misses significant time. And let's give a little credit to the Jets, who I think found themselves coming back against the Steelers. That was like a spark plug win for them. That defensive line is no joke. That defense really overall is no joke. And they appear like they might have finally started to find something. If only the quarterback could actually bring the goods on, I don't know, any kind of a regular basis there. But yeah, Allen getting hurt, man, it makes this whole conference like a complete crapshoot if he misses serious time or if he's done for the season, God forbid, for them.
Yeah. And you talk about defense, New England's defense is pretty good too. A lot of no names on that defense. But if they get any kind of consistent quarterback play, look out. They're 5-4. Every team in that division is over 500. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we'll check in with Ken Rice on the eve of Election Day. We'll talk about that and more as we continue right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, Pittsburgh CW, and simulcast on 93.7 The Fan.